Jake Harrison felt his heart beating fast as he walked into the huge alien building. The walls were made of some kind of glowing crystal that hurt his eyes to look at directly. Strange sounds echoed through the air as dozens of different alien species moved around him. Some floated in the air, others crawled on multiple legs, and a few looked almost human, but with skin colors he had never seen before. Behind him walked Captain Lisa Monroe and Dr. Sam Porter. They were the only three humans in a building filled with creatures from across the galaxy. Jake carried a small case that held Earth's formal request to join the Galactic Trade Alliance. It had taken humanity 50 years to even learn this place existed, and another 20 years to arrange this meeting. The main chamber was enormous. Jake had to tilt his head back to see the ceiling, which seemed to stretch up forever. Hundreds of seats were arranged in circles, each one designed for a different type of alien body. Some seats hung from the ceiling for flying creatures, while others were pools of liquid for beings that lived underwater. A tall creature with 6 arms and purple skin stood up from a throne-like chair made of black metal. Its voice boomed through the chamber without any kind of microphone or speaker system. The human delegation may approach the speaking circle. Jake walked forward on shaking legs. He had practiced this speech 1,000 times, but now that he was here, the words seemed to stick in his throat. The eyes of hundreds of alien beings were focused on him. Some had dozens of eyes, others had none at all, but seemed to watch him anyway. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Jake began, his voice sounding small in the vast space. "I am Ambassador Jake Harrison, representing the planet Earth and all of humanity. We come before you today seeking membership in the Galactic Trade Alliance." A sound like breaking glass filled the air. Jake realized it was laughter from some of the aliens. The 6-armed creature that had spoken before held up one hand for silence. "I am Commander Zexthel of the Kratheri Empire," the creature said. "Human, your request is amusing. Tell me, what could your primitive species possibly offer to the galaxy's most advanced civilizations?" Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks. Humanity has much to contribute. We have developed unique technologies. We have rich cultural traditions, and we have proven ourselves capable of space travel and peaceful contact with other species. More laughter echoed through the chamber. A being that looked like it was made of pure light floated down from the ceiling. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "I am Velanara of the Ethereal Collective, the Light Being," said. "Humans are violent creatures who cannot even live in peace with their own kind. Your planet is covered in the scars of countless wars. You poison your own air and water. Why should civilized beings associate with such barbarians?" Jake's hands clenched into fists at his sides. Lisa stepped forward slightly, ready to support him if needed. "We acknowledge that humanity has made mistakes in the past," Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. "But we have learned from those mistakes. We have unified our world and ended global warfare. We seek to learn from more advanced civilizations and contribute to galactic peace." A creature that looked like a walking computer made of metal and wires spoke next. Its voice was flat and emotionless. "The Silicon Syndicate has analyzed human capabilities. You possess no remarkable physical abilities. You cannot manipulate matter like the Kratheri. You lack psychic powers like the Vailanathi. Your technology is centuries behind our own. You live for less than a single cycle of our shortest-lived members." Commander Zexthel gestured with all 6 arms. "The synthetic speaks truth. Humans are weak in body and mind. Your lifespans are so brief that you barely have time to learn anything useful before you die. Your ships are slow and clumsy. Your weapons are primitive. Your understanding of science is that of children playing with toys." The alien laughter grew louder. Jake felt his face burning with shame and anger. He had expected some resistance, but not this level of open mockery. Around the chamber, aliens were pointing at the human delegation and making sounds that clearly indicated amusement. Furthermore, Zexthil continued, humans have no special talents whatsoever. Every species in this alliance brings unique abilities to our collective strength. The Krathari reshape matter with our minds. The ethereals manipulate energy itself. The silicon beings process information faster than biological minds can comprehend. The Vailanathi can read thoughts and see the future. What can humans do that we cannot do better? Jake opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. The alien was right. Humanity had no special powers, no unique abilities that couldn't be matched or exceeded by other species. They were just ordinary. Your species is also incredibly diverse in appearance and thought, added another alien that looked like a fae. Giant insect. This shows weakness and lack of unity. Strong species evolve toward perfection and similarity. Humans remain scattered and different from each other. Valinara's voice rang out again. The ethereal collective has observed human behavior for decades. You are driven by primitive emotions like anger, fear, and jealousy. Advanced species have moved beyond such childish feelings. You are guided by instinct rather than logic. The chamber erupted in what could only be described as alien applause. Creatures clapped, clicked, buzzed, and made various other sounds of approval. Jake felt smaller and smaller as the insults continued. In conclusion, Commander Zexthil said, his voice carrying easily over the noise, humanity is the weakest species ever to request membership in this alliance. You are primitive, violent, short-lived, and completely without merit. Your request is denied. Furthermore, Earth is hereby blacklisted from all future contact with Alliance members. Guards escort these creatures from our presence. Large alien beings began moving toward the human delegation. Jake felt Lisa's hand on his arm, guiding him toward the exit. As they walked through the chamber, aliens continued to laugh and point. At them, some made rude gestures that needed no translation. Just before they reached the door, Jake turned around one last time. His voice was quiet, but somehow it carried through the entire chamber. Very well, he said. We understand your position perfectly. The aliens barely noticed his words. They were too busy celebrating their clever insults and jokes about the primitive humans. None of them saw the cold smile that appeared on Lisa's face, or the way Jake's hands slowly unclenched as a different kind of determination settled over him. As the three humans walked out of the building and back to their small ship, they said nothing to each other. But each of them was thinking the same thing. The aliens had made a mistake. They had not just rejected humanity's request for membership. They had insulted the entire human race in front of representatives from across the galaxy. And humans, as their history had shown time and time again, were most dangerous when they had something to prove. The ship lifted off quietly and began its long journey back to Earth. Behind them, the aliens continued their celebration, completely unaware that they had just made enemies of the most adaptable and determined species in the galaxy. They thought they had seen the last of humanity. They were very, very wrong. 3 months had passed since the terrible day at the Galactic Council. The news of humanity's rejection had spread across Earth like wildfire. Every person on the planet had watched the recordings of their representatives being laughed at and insulted by alien beings who thought they were better than humans. Dr. Sam Porter sat in his office looking at reports from human observers stationed throughout the galaxy. These were people who had been living on alien worlds for years, studying different species and learning their secrets. What Sam was reading made him both angry and excited at the same time. The aliens thought they knew everything about humans, but they knew nothing about what made humans truly special. They had looked at humanity's lack of psychic powers and super strength and decided humans were worthless. They never bothered to study what humans could actually do. Sam picked up his phone and called Admiral Kate Stevens at the military headquarters. Kate, you need to see these reports. The aliens have made a huge mistake. An hour later, Kate was sitting across from Sam's desk, reading through the files. Her eyes grew wider with each page she turned. This is incredible, Sam. Are you sure this information is correct? I've had our people double-check everything, Sam replied. The Krathari are powerful, but they're also incredibly fragile. They can reshape metal with their minds, but they can only survive in perfectly controlled environments. If the temperature changes by more than a few degrees, they become sick and weak. Kate nodded and continued reading. The Vailanathi can read minds and see the future, but only when they're connected to their crystal amplifiers. Without those crystals, they're completely powerless. And the crystals can only be found on their home planet. That's right, Sam said. And the Silicon Syndicate might have amazing technology, but it takes them hours to make simple decisions. Their computer brains are so complex that they can't react quickly to changing situations. Kate leaned back in her chair. So every species has a major weakness that they consider normal and unavoidable. Exactly. But here's the interesting part. Humans don't have any of these weaknesses. We can survive in almost any environment. We don't need special equipment to use our abilities. And we can make decisions and adapt to new situations faster than any other species. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the aliens were going about their daily lives as if humans had never existed. The Galactic Council had officially blacklisted Earth from all trade agreements. No alien ship was allowed to visit human space, and no human was welcome on alien worlds. Commander Zexthul was particularly pleased with himself. He had recorded his speech insulting humanity and shared it with friends across the Krathari Empire. They all laughed at the stupid humans who thought they deserved to join civilized society. Primitive barbarians, Zexthul said to his fellow commanders over dinner. They probably went back to their little planet and cried like children. We'll never hear from them again. The other Krathari laughed and agreed. None of them noticed that their conversation was being recorded by a human observer who had been living on their world for 3 years, pretending to be a servant. The human had learned their language perfectly and had been gathering information about their military bases, their technology, and their weaknesses. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. Human observers who had been ignored and dismissed by the aliens were now working harder than ever to learn everything they could about their hosts. The aliens thought humans were too stupid to be a threat, so they didn't bother to be careful. Around them, back on Earth, Colonel Ryan Blake was overseeing the biggest military project in human history. In secret bases hidden across the solar system, thousands of engineers and scientists were working on something that would change everything. Report, Blake said to his assistant, Lieutenant Commander Helen Rooks. Sir, we've successfully reverse-engineered technology from 17 different alien species. The crashed ships and debris we've collected over the past 50 years have given us everything we need to understand how their systems work. Blake nodded. And the production facilities? Operating at full capacity. We're building ships faster than any alien species has ever managed. The advantage of human manufacturing is that we can adapt our production lines quickly to incorporate new technologies. What the aliens didn't understand was that humanity's greatest strength was not any single ability, but their talent for learning and adapting. While other species had evolved to be perfect at one thing, humans had evolved to be good at everything. Dr. Carol Murphy, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, was working with a team of researchers to understand exactly how the different alien species thought. The problem with the aliens, she explained to her team, is that they can't imagine being different from what they are. The Krathari think everyone should be able to reshape matter. The Vailanathi think everyone should have psychic powers. They can't understand that there might be other ways to be strong. So they looked at us and saw only what we lack, said one of her assistants. Exactly. They never bothered to look at what we can do that they can't. They think specialization is strength, but actually it's a weakness. If you can only do one thing well, you're helpless when that one thing isn't enough. As the months passed, something remarkable was happening on Earth. The humiliation at the Galactic Council had not broken humanity's spirit. Instead, it had united them in a way that nothing else ever had. Every human on Earth was working toward the same goal, and that goal was to prove the aliens wrong. Children in schools were learning alien languages and studying alien technology. Universities were offering new courses in interstellar warfare and alien psychology. Factories that had once made cars and computers were now producing weapons and spaceships designed to fight enemies the aliens had never imagined. The most shocking part was how fast humans were learning. What had taken the aliens thousands of years to develop, humans were mastering in months. They didn't have to invent everything from scratch because they could study and improve on alien designs. Captain Danny Ross, commander of the new Earth Defense Force, was amazed by what he saw. Every day, we're not just building ships, he told his officers. We're building ships that are better than anything the aliens have ever seen. We're taking the best parts of their technology and combining them in ways they never thought possible. The aliens had called humans weak because they had no special abilities. But humans didn't need special abilities. They had something much more powerful, the ability to learn from everyone and everything around them. As the first year after the insult drew to a close, Earth had become a hive of activity unlike anything in human history. Millions of people were working together with a single purpose. The aliens had wanted to humiliate humanity, but instead they had given humans the motivation to become something greater than they had ever been before. The galaxy continued to spin peacefully, unaware that in a small corner of space, the species they had dismissed as primitive barbarians was preparing to show them what humans could really do. When they put their minds to it, the aliens thought they had seen the last of humanity. They had no idea that they were about to discover just how dangerous it could be to underestimate the most adaptable species in the galaxy. 6 months had passed since humanity's rejection at the Galactic Council. The galaxy continued its daily routine, completely unaware that something extraordinary was happening in the Sol system. Earth had transformed into something the aliens could never have imagined. General Alex Carter stood on the observation deck of Luna Base, watching thousands of ships move through space around Earth's moon. These weren't the small, simple vessels that had carried Jake Harrison to meet the aliens. These were warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Status report, Carter called out to Lieutenant Commander Helen Brooks, who was coordinating the massive fleet from the command center. All battle groups are ready, sir. The Terran Defense Fleet now has 12,000 ships. Every single one is equipped with technology we've adapted from multiple alien species. Helen's voice was calm, but Carter could hear the excitement underneath. Carter nodded as he watched a group of sleek black ships practice formation flying. Each ship was designed using the best ideas from across the galaxy. They had Krathari matter manipulation engines that could bend space itself. They carried Vailanathi psychic dampening fields that could block mind reading. Their computers used Silicon Syndicate processing cores that had been modified to think at human speed instead of alien. Slowness. Dr. Rachel Stone approached the observation window. She had spent the last 6 months studying every piece of information about alien psychology that humans had gathered over the decades. General, Our intelligence network confirms that the aliens still think we're completely harmless. Their arrogance has made them blind to what we've been doing. What made humanity's preparation truly amazing was not just the size of their fleet, but how they had built it. While other species took centuries to develop new technology, humans had done something unprecedented. They had taken the best parts of every alien technology and combined them into something completely new. Captain Danny Ross, commander of the flagship U.S. Defiance, walked into the command center carrying a tablet full of reports. "Sir, all infiltration. Teams report ready. We have human agents positioned throughout alien space. They've been mapping every military base, every trade route, and every government facility for months." Carter smiled grimly. The aliens had dismissed humans as too primitive, to be dangerous. They never imagined that those same humans had been watching and learning from them for years. Human agents had been working as servants, traders, and laborers on alien worlds, gathering information while being completely ignored. "What about our special projects?" Carter asked Dr. Stone. "Complete success, sir. We've developed countermeasures for every alien advantage. Our neural shielding can block Vailanathi mind reading. Our environmental suits let us survive in any conditions the Krathari can create. Our new processing systems can make decisions faster than any Silicon Syndicate computer." The most shocking part of humanity's preparation was how they had solved the problem of their own weaknesses. The aliens had been right that humans lacked special powers, but humans had found ways to give themselves those powers through technology and training. Commander Roy Martinez walked over from the tactical planning station. "General, I've just finished reviewing our battle plans. The aliens have never faced an enemy like us before. They're used to fighting species that think like they do. They have no idea how to fight an enemy that can adapt and change tactics in the middle of a battle." This was humanity's secret weapon. While alien species had evolved to be perfect at one type of warfare, humans had learned to be good at every type of warfare. They could fight like Krathari when they needed to manipulate matter. They could fight like Vailanathi when they needed to use mental tactics. They could fight like silicon beings when they needed perfect coordination. But most importantly, they could fight like humans, which meant they could do things no alien species could even imagine. Admiral Betty Clark, who had replaced Jake Harrison as Earth's primary representative, entered the command center carrying a secure communication device. "General, I've just received confirmation from our deep space scouts. The alien fleets are completely unprepared for what we're about to show them." Carter looked around at his officers. These were people who had been working without rest for months, driven by the memory of humanity's humiliation at the Galactic Council. Every human on Earth knew what had happened that day, and every human was determined to make sure it never happened again. "Admiral Clark, are you ready to return to the Galactic Council?" "More than ready, sir. This time, I won't be asking for permission to join their little club. I'll be explaining the new rules of the galaxy." What the aliens didn't understand was that they had made a fundamental mistake about human nature. They thought that insulting humanity would make humans give up and go away. Instead, they had given humans something much more powerful than any psychic ability or matter manipulation. A reason to prove them wrong. Captain Lisa Monroe, now promoted to Admiral of the Home Fleet, reviewed the final preparations. "All ships, report ready for deployment. Our crews have trained for every possible scenario. The aliens think they know how space battles work, but they've never fought humans before." The scale of what humanity had accomplished in just 6 months was staggering. They had built the largest fleet in galactic history. They had developed technology that surpassed anything the aliens had ever created. They had trained millions of soldiers and pilots. And they had done it all in complete secrecy. But the most important thing they had accomplished was unity. 4. The first time in human history, every person on Earth was working toward the same goal. There were no wars between nations, no arguments about politics or religion. There was only the shared determination to show the galaxy what humans could do when they worked together. Dr. Sam Porter, now serving as Director of Alien Affairs, made a final check of their intelligence reports. The aliens still think of us as the same primitive species they insulted 6 months ago. They have no idea that we've been studying them, learning from them, and preparing to surprise them. As the final preparations were completed, General Carter felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Humanity was about to reveal itself to the galaxy in a way that would change everything forever. The aliens thought they had seen the last of the weak, primitive humans who had begged for membership in their alliance. They were about to discover that they had created something far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. They had created a unified, determined, and incredibly capable enemy that was ready to show them exactly what humans could accomplish when they had something to prove. The galaxy was about to learn that underestimating humanity was the biggest mistake the aliens had ever made. The first sign that something had changed came during what should have been a routine patrol. Commander Zelthuk of the Krathri Empire was leading 12 ships through the Outer Rim territories when his sensors detected something unusual. A single human vessel was floating alone in space, apparently defenseless and far from Earth. Finally, Zelthuk said to his crew with amusement, "One of those pathetic humans has wandered into our space. We'll destroy it quickly and send a message to the rest of their worthless species." Zelthuk remembered the video of humans being insulted at the Galactic Council. He had laughed along with everyone else at how weak and stupid they looked. Now he would have the pleasure of destroying one of their ships personally. "All ships, prepare to fire," Zelthuk commanded. "Let's show this human what happens when primitives enter civilized space." 12 Krathri warships opened fire at the same time. Their weapons could tear apart asteroids and melt metal with pure energy. The human ship should have been destroyed instantly. Instead, something impossible happened. The human vessel absorbed every energy blast that hit it. The ship's hull glowed briefly, then released all that energy back at the Krathri ships in a focused beam of destruction. Within seconds, 11 of Zelthuk's ships were nothing but floating debris. Zelthuk stared at his screens in complete shock. His hands were shaking as he tried to understand what had just happened. A calm voice came over his communication system. "This is Captain Roy Martinez of the UES Retribution. You will surrender your vessel immediately and prepare to be boarded." "Impossible," Zelthuk whispered. "Humans don't have technology like this. You're primitives. You're weak." "We were never weak," Martinez replied calmly. "You just never bothered to look closely enough to see what we could really do." Similar scenes were happening across the galaxy at exactly the same time. The Vailinathi had sent a fleet to destroy a human research station, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they found their psychic attacks completely useless against humans. Wearing neural shielding that turned their own mental powers back on them, the Silicon Syndicate had dispatched their most advanced battle computers to eliminate human ships near their territory. They discovered that their perfect technology meant nothing when humans could adapt and counter their systems faster than the Syndicate could process what was happening. On every front, across dozens of star systems, the same story played out. Alien forces that had expected easy victories against primitive humans instead found themselves facing an enemy unlike anything they had ever encountered. Emergency signals flooded the communication networks as news of the disasters spread. On the Galactic Council homeworld, representatives from every major species gathered in panic. The chamber that had once echoed with laughter at humanity's expense was now filled with fear and confusion. Admiral Betty Clark stood in the center of the speaking circle, but this time she was not alone. Behind her stood Captain Lisa Monroe and a dozen other human officers, all wearing the dark blue uniforms of the Terran Defense Force. Above them, holographic displays showed the locations of human ships throughout the galaxy. "Impossible," gasped Velinara, the ethereal collective representative who had once called humans barbarians. "Your species cannot possess such capabilities. You lack the evolutionary advantages necessary for advanced warfare." Admiral Clark smiled coldly. "You're absolutely right. We don't have your natural abilities. But what we do have is something you've never encountered before, the ability to learn from our enemies and become stronger than they are." The chamber fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. Commander Zexthul, who had led the original insults against humanity, found his voice shaking when he tried to speak. What do you want from us?" he asked. "We want exactly what you gave us 6 months ago," Clark replied. "We're here to return the favor. You called us primitive barbarians. You said we were weak and worthless. You laughed at us and treated us like animals. Now we're here to show you exactly what these primitive barbarians can do." The Silicon Syndicate's representative, a walking computer that had once dismissed human intelligence, spoke in a voice filled with electronic static. "Our analysis indicates that human military capability has increased by approximately 10,000% in 6 months. This rate of improvement is impossible according to all known laws of technological development." "That's because you don't understand how humans work," Clark explained. "Every species in this galaxy evolved to be perfect at one thing. You became specialists. But humans evolved to be adapters. We learn from everyone and everything around. We take the best ideas from every species and make them our own." Dr. Rachel Stone stepped forward carrying a data tablet. "We've been studying all of you for decades. We know your strengths, but more importantly, we know your weaknesses. The Krathari are powerful, but fragile. The Valenathe are psychic, but dependent on their crystals. The Silicon beings are intelligent, but slow to adapt. Every species has limitations that you consider natural and unchangeable. But humans don't have those limitations," added Captain Martinez, whose voice was being broadcast from his ship. "We can survive in any environment. We can learn any skill. We can adapt to any situation. Most importantly, we can work together in ways that you never imagined possible." The alien representatives looked around at each other in growing panic. They were beginning to understand that they hadn't just underestimated humanity. They had made an enemy of the most dangerous species in the galaxy without even realizing it. "The question now," Admiral Clark continued, "is what happens next? You have 2 choices. You can continue to treat humans as primitives and see what happens when we decide to demonstrate our full capabilities. Or you can acknowledge that you made a mistake and begin negotiations for a new relationship between our species." Commander Zexthul, who had been so confident and mocking 6 months earlier, now looked terrified. You're threatening the entire galaxy?" "We're not threatening anyone," Clark replied. "We're simply explaining the new reality. The galaxy has a new power, and that power is humanity. You can choose to work with us or against us, but you can no longer choose to ignore us." The chamber erupted in panicked discussions as alien representatives tried to understand how everything had changed so quickly. The species that had once dismissed humans as too weak to matter were now facing the possibility that humans might be too strong to stop. The galaxy would never be the same again. The aliens had learned, to their complete shock and terror, that when you insult humanity and dismiss them as worthless, you don't make them disappear. You make them angry. And angry humans, as they were now discovering, were the most dangerous force in the galaxy. 3 weeks after humanity's shocking display of power, the galaxy found itself completely changed. The Galactic Council, once the supreme authority among the stars, now served at the pleasure of the Terran Federation. Alien species that had ruled space for thousands of years were learning to follow the leadership of the humans. They had once called primitive barbarians. President Kevin White sat in his office on Earth, looking out at the stars through a massive window. Behind him hung the flags of 200 human colonies that had been established in former alien territories. The speed of human expansion had amazed even the humans themselves. "Mr. President," said Dr. Carol Murphy, now serving as Secretary of Interstellar Relations, "the new Galactic Assembly is ready for your address." Kevin nodded and walked to the communication center. His image would be broadcast to every inhabited world in known space. For the first time in galactic history, every species would hear the same message at the same time. "Citizens of the galaxy," Kevin began, his voice carrying to billions of beings across thousands of worlds. 3 weeks ago, the galaxy learned that humanity is not the weak, primitive species you believed us to be. We have proven our strength. We have demonstrated our capabilities. Now it is time to talk about the future. On worlds across the galaxy, aliens watched their screens with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Many expected the humans to announce their conquest of the galaxy, to declare themselves the new masters and reduce all other species to slavery. "Let me be perfectly clear," Kevin continued. "Humanity does not seek to rule through fear or oppression. We have proven our point. You underestimated us because you judged us by your own limitations. But now that you understand what we can do, we prefer to build rather than destroy." The alien representatives in the new Galactic Assembly sat in stunned silence. They had expected threats and demands. Instead, they were hearing something they had never imagined from a conquering species. Dr. Murphy stepped forward to present the new Galactic Charter. Every species will maintain their independence and cultural identity. However, the age of species-based supremacy is over. From now on, merit, innovation, and cooperation will determine standing in this galactic community. What shocked the aliens most was not humanity's military might, but their restraint. Expected to be conquered or destroyed, they instead found themselves offered partnership in a new order based on mutual respect and shared progress. Admiral Lisa Monroe, now commander of all human forces, addressed the concern that many aliens had voiced privately. "You're wondering why we didn't simply destroy you after your insults. The answer is simple. That's not who we are. We fight when we must, but we prefer to create and build. We believe the galaxy is better when everyone contributes their best abilities." Commander Zexthul, who had led the original insults against humanity, now served as the Crothery representative to the new assembly. His voice was humble as he spoke. We do not understand. We insulted you. We mocked you. We called you worthless. Why do you offer us partnership instead of revenge?" Kevin smiled sadly. "Because revenge would make us the monsters you thought we were. We're not interested in becoming the bullies of the galaxy. We want to show you what the galaxy can become when everyone works together instead of fighting for dominance." As the months passed, something remarkable happened. The galaxy began to prosper under human leadership in ways it never had before. Humanity's greatest strength, their adaptability and determination to overcome any obstacle, became the foundation for unprecedented cooperation between species. The Crothery found their matter. Manipulation abilities enhanced by human engineering. Working together, they could now reshape entire planets to make them suitable for life. The Vailinathi discovered that human neural patterns could amplify their psychic powers, allowing them to communicate across vast distances instantly. The Silicon Syndicate learned that human intuition could accelerate their decision-making processes, making them thousands of times more efficient. But the changes went deeper than just technology. The rigid hierarchy that had dominated galactic politics for millennia was replaced by a system where ideas mattered more than the species that proposed them. Young aliens who had never been allowed to speak in the old council now found their innovations welcomed and supported. Captain Roy Martinez, now serving as Director of Galactic Security, oversaw the peaceful integration of former enemies. The old system was based on fear and competition, he explained to a group of young alien leaders. Everyone was afraid that sharing their knowledge would make them weak. But humans learned long ago that sharing knowledge makes everyone stronger. Dr. Sam Porter, working as head of the new Interspecies Research Division, was amazed by what they accomplished when species worked together instead of against each other. We're solving problems that have plagued the galaxy for thousands of years, he reported to President White. When you combine Cthulhu matter manipulation with Vailanathi mental powers and Silicon computational ability, guided by human adaptability, there's nothing we can't accomplish. The most surprising change was in the aliens themselves. Species that had been enemies for generations began working together on projects that benefited everyone. The rigid thinking that had kept them trapped in old patterns was being replaced by the human approach of trying new solutions and learning from mistakes. Captain Danny Ross, now overseeing human colonies throughout the galaxy, sent regular reports. Back to Earth. The aliens are learning to think like humans, he wrote. They're starting to ask, what if, instead of, that's impossible. They're beginning to understand that limitations exist to be overcome, not accepted. 1 year after the insult that had changed everything, Jake Harrison returned to the Galactic Assembly as Earth's senior ambassador. The chamber where he had once been humiliated was now filled with representatives working together on projects that would have been unimaginable under the old system. A year ago, Jake addressed the assembly. You told us we were weak because we had no special abilities. You were right. We don't have psychic powers or matter manipulation or superintelligence. But what we do have is something more powerful than any of those gifts: the refusal to accept that anything is impossible. In the end, the aliens' greatest insult to humanity, calling them weak and inferior, had become the catalyst for the greatest advancement in galactic civilization. Humanity had proven that true strength didn't come from natural advantages, but from the determination to overcome any challenge. The galaxy would never again underestimate the species that had once been dismissed as primitive barbarians. They had learned, to their amazement and gratitude, that when humans are insulted and underestimated, they don't just prove their critics wrong, they change the entire galaxy for the better. And in the vast chambers of the Galactic Assembly, plaque now hung where the old council had once sat. Never underestimate the determination of those who refuse to accept defeat.